We're live.
All right. Well, thank you everybody who's watching this. This is Coin Olympics, and I'm Juan Galt. I'm the host for today's conversation, and we've got Aaron here, our lead, one of our lead chart guys, and then we've got a guest whose name is Henry.
Henry.
How's it going, Henry? All right, so this is kind of a test run, but we're going to be talking about a few big topics that are coming up right now. We've got Zcash launching on the 28th of October, and there's two kind of copycats of Zcash that are running its technology and sort of preparing, like positioning themselves for the market. So we're going to talk about some of that and other sort of outer implications of Zcash and what Zcash is. And then on the second sort of side of the conversation, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin fork and everything that's going on there, which is obviously big news as well. So before we kind of get into some of the chart analysis, which you're seeing up front here, this is the Zcash futures on BitMEX. About what Zcash is. So this is basically an anonymity blockchain that has been under development for probably 3 years. It's kind of led by legendary cryptographer Matthew Green. This guy is highly respected in the space, and there's a few other sort of academics that have been working on this for a while, and it seems like they recognize that there was a problem of anonymity in Bitcoin, and they decided to tackle this problem at a cryptographic sort of protocol level, rather than trying to build layers on top like Bitcoin sort of dark markets have done, or like even like how Dash solved the problem, right? They're sort of perhaps more similar to Monero in that they are using cryptography at a protocol level to sort of solve anonymity, but they have a different solution. And I think people in general think Zcash is basically the best technology for anonymity that there is, even though it's not really that battle tested yet. Now, because Zcash, the concept, it was used to coin. The academic paper was published perhaps 3 years ago. I think it was 2011. Other coins kind of adapted that theory and created something called Zcoin, and we can show a chart of Zcoin. Zcoin has been trading since September of this year, so it's got about a month of trading on a couple of sort of low-end exchanges, and it hit Bittrex a couple of days ago, and it's been going pretty crazy in there. Maybe we can get a chart of Zcoin from CoinMarketCap or something. And so Zcoin is similar to Zcash, and I think Zcoin is going to be playing an important role in this whole sort of wave of the zero knowledge proofs, right? This sort of new kind of blockchain. And that's a word that you'll be hearing a lot too, is zero knowledge proofs, or SNARKs, which is sort of the special anonymity cryptography that these type of blockchains use. Zcoin is one of those sort of blockchains, and there's a few sort of key trade-offs between Zcoin and Zcash. Zcash is the one developed by Matthew Green, and the sort of the big release is going to happen soon. And so there's a few trade-offs. One of them is that Zcoin doesn't anonymize how much money is being sent. It only anonymizes who's sending it to who, or what address to what address. Zcash actually anonymizes how much is being sent as well. But the trade-off is that in order to do that, Zcash needs to use a special way of starting the blockchain. It's something called the Genesis secret. Well, I call it the Genesis secret. It's also called the toxic waste problem, or the trusted setup problem. And what this means is that in order for Zcash to work in a way that anonymizes points are being sent from person to person, you actually need to create a kind of like a password that's shared among about 8 people. I think is the way that it's going to work with Zcash. A small group of people, and then they all have to generate this password separately, and then bring some sort of cryptographic output together, and then generate the blockchain from that. And if all of the members are compromised, then anybody who has that full password can generate any Zcash that they want at any time, and there'd be no way to know whether they are legitimate or not. Basically, if somebody gets a control of all the Genesis secrets, then they can basically inflate the currency at will whenever. And since it's the blockchain is built like to have incredible anonymity, then there's basically no way to know who's doing it. So this is like if you're an evil genius trying to create the perfect evil cryptocurrency, Zcash would sort of compromising the Genesis secret. Of course, that's why there's sort of such high reputation names in Zcash, or at least that's the sort of upside, is that if one of the sort of small group of people that are going to be launching this Genesis secret for the Zcash blockchain actually do it right and don't get hacked or don't reveal and collude their secret, their share of that Genesis secret, then nobody can inflate the coins at will. So this is sort of a critical sort of point of Zcash. And then Zcoin doesn't have that problem, but it has other problems. It's based on RSA cryptography, which was revealed to have had some collusion with the NSA in 2013 and stuff during the Snowden files and stuff. So there's this trust on both sides. And so I'll be releasing a report. We'll be releasing a report with details on all of this, but that's sort of like a general overview of the space and why, and that's an overview of the contentious sort of debates between Zcoin and Zcash. And I guarantee you will be seeing a lot more of that debate as we move forward. Now, another important thing to know about Zcash is that it's basically as institutionally funded as can be. It's sort of the way that cryptography in the internet has been sort of funded is usually open source projects with competitions and grants from multiple organizations, including the government, including DARPA, the sort of defense military research organization. And so DARPA actually helped fund a bunch of other sort of organizations that are nonprofits, etc. And you can look at that. I'll show you guys a link. Here, let me just let me show you that link right now to the funders. Let's see.
Hey Juan, while you're looking at that,
sure.
Let us know when you're ready for some questions. I definitely have some.
Sure. So let me just see if I can get this on screen, because it's a pretty important piece of the puzzle. And then no, that's not it. Sorry, just a second here. Anyways, I'll put the link below, and I'll just read it off. So Amazon.com is one of the sponsors, Broadcom Foundation and Tel Aviv University Authentication Initiative, Center for Science Information, Defense, DARPA, European Community 7 Framework, Programming, Israeli Center for Research Excellence, Israeli Minister of Science and Technology, the Leon M. Harry and B. Office of Naval Research under contract, blah blah, Simmons Foundation, and Skolvko Foundation. That seems like a Russian one. So obviously this is a big institutional sort of project. Now these people probably fund a lot of projects. This is just one of them, but that's sort of an interesting thing to know, and it does sort of imply some interesting institutional connections. So this thing is like open source and allegedly the best anonymity cryptocurrency technology that we have. But it's also, which is a very libertarian ideal, but it's also sponsored by established kind of institutional organizations, right? So that's why Zcash is a big deal, because they have top of the line cryptographers, plenty of funding, and a very sort of weird mix of incentives. And if the technology is really that great, then it's going to really have an impact. But then that's going to affect the price, like how much people trust the developers and the way, and this Genesis secret problem is going to affect the price. I think that one last thing that I'll say, and then we can move into some questions and conversation, is that there's going to be three scenarios basically. One scenario is the Genesis secret is not revealed, and one of the founders of Zcash act honestly, and then you can't do this inflation thing, which is great. Then we will never see any problems, right? But the thing is, it would be really hard to know whether they got, like they all got compromised or not. The second scenario is we have all of them get compromised, and then Zcash goes to the moon, and then at some point hyperinflation hits, and the price crashes. That's the second scenario. And the third scenario is one where the developers, or like the Genesis secret people, get compromised, but the hacker or the person that has this password just creates new coins at a very low rate, or low enough that it's hard to notice the inflation on the market, and so they can do it forever basically. And so that's basically where Zcash is at. But the good news is that even under these three scenarios, it will be an excellent technology for anonymizing cryptocurrency transactions. So I think one possible way that people will treat Zcash is as a way to basically clean their money, quote unquote, launder their money, or essentially anonymize their cryptocurrency. And it's basically going to be very secure, assuming that the crypto is good and it's all open source. Oh, and sorry, one last thing that I forgot to mention is that there's a third copycat, in a sense, a third sort of version of the zero coin technology and the Zcash technology. It's called Komodo, and this one's run by the SuperNet people, James Lee or JL77. I used to be involved with what they're doing, and then I kind of swung to other communities and stuff. And they're basically, what they're doing is they're going to create an altcoin version of Zcash. They're going to change some of the parameters of the proof of work security model, and they're going to build something that's sort of like a sidechain on top of Bitcoin. It's a kind of they're going to use Bitcoin as a backup blockchain. It's a very weird and interesting concept, and the idea is that it raises the security of their chain to that of Bitcoin, plus basically their own mining security. And then and they're going to basically build SuperNet on top of this, which the whole idea that they have is an anonymous, decentralized cryptocurrency exchange. So there's a lot of people really getting into this, and I believe there's other sort of Genesis mining and other people are getting into it. So this is a big deal as far as altcoins go. All right, that's my speech and spiel. You guys can sort of jump in. What do you guys think?
I'd love to hear from Henry, because I just want to tell the folks watching that he's been patiently waiting for like 2 hours. It's like 2 a.m. in London where he's at. So I want to give him a chance to get in here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, if I fall asleep, I'm sorry. It's too long. No, it's really interesting. Both is it publicly known who Genesis mining people are?
Yeah, so I got the authors of the white paper, the original white paper here. Ali Ben Season of Technion, Alexander Chase, UK Berkeley, Christian German, John Hopkinson University, Matthew Green, Johns Hopkinson University, Ian Myers, John Hopkinson University, Iran Tormer, Tel Aviv University, and Madars Versa, MIT.
So am I right that the Genesis mining problem doesn't affect the integrity?
It doesn't de-anonymize the transactions. It only creates allows the creation of new coins.
So no matter what, it's going to be very anonymous. It's just how long. It's just
that's basically what everybody's saying. Yeah.
Juan, okay, so there's definitely a lot of buzz about this. Who do you think is who are the people that are interested in these anonymous coins? Or the folks that are currently in like Monero and Dash?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we obviously saw Monero Moon, like, it was amazing how much it went up. And that was basically because Alphabet, the biggest dark market, was like, you know what, Monero seems like a great idea. We're going to stockpile some of it and then say that we're going to enable it on our platform and then sell at the top. And that seems to be what they did. And then they probably made more gains than they've done on drugs in the past 2 years. I don't know actually how much, how exactly what they did through the trading, but guaranteed they bought early and sold at the top. And so I think we can see attention from them. To my knowledge, Monero is, while it's sort of enabled in Alphabet, not a lot of people seem to be using it, and most customers prefer Bitcoin, at least up till now. So as far as real volume and real or use, even Monero itself is not really picking up. And if you look at Monero price, it's definitely fallen. At least, you know, it's definitely like the bubble is popped, basically, right? And so
I'm going to pull up a chart of Monero
sure,
for the viewers.
yeah. So, I mean, the whole point of anonymous money, cryptocurrency, is fear that the government will, or that other sort of corporations will start data mining it and be able to sort of attack users based on their purchases and economic behavior, and which basically centralizes it or allows politics to get in there and mess with economies, right?
Mhm.
I think that's sort of a lot of the fear, particularly in the libertarian space. So anonymity technology is very much speculative, but I think that we can see, well, I mean, cryptocurrency in general is fairly speculative, but I think that we'll be able to, we should see once Zcash is sort of tested and criticized, and it sort of stabilizes the price a little bit more, because we're going to see some wild swings, I bet you. Then I wouldn't be surprised if Alphabet also decides to start accepting Zcash, right? And then that's going to be a nice bump too.
Okay, so kind of the people that are going to be involved in getting involved in this coin launch probably might be people that are involved in are worried about your Dash users, your Monero users, and also speculators. And then it's kind of an interesting mix, like you're talking about, because you do have all that institutional presence. You got Genesis Mining, who is the largest cloud mining outfit in the world, and they're really pushing this. They're going to be mining from the very get-go, and they're putting in a lot of their hash power towards doing this. So you got those players, and then also you talked about the futures contract. So BitMEX has trading already. So the coin hasn't even launched. It's launching next week, and this has been trading for about a month now. And Henry and I were talking off the air previous, and we're can you see the chart, Juan? Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay, so right around here, this is when the futures contract trading started, and it opened up at about 25,000. I'm rounding, about 25,000 Satoshi, which that seems pretty reasonable to me. But then from there, you can see the chart. We've gone pretty. It's been a healthy increase. So much so that even in the last couple of days, we've traded up to about almost 250,000 Satoshi, which is about a 10 time increase. So that's some pretty big appreciation. What do you think's going on there?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I understand what these BitMEX futures contracts are. So is it basically, because the thing about Zcash is that there was a pre-ICO essentially where a lot of some private investors got a bunch of Zcash, right? And I don't know how much. It's not going to be a massive pre-mine. I believe that over the total 21 million Zcash, I believe 10% will be allocated to the founders, and then most of that will be allocated during the first 4 years, and then they stop getting a piece of the pie after the first 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's say out of the 21 million, 10% of it is it's going to be controlled by the founders, and then maybe 3% of it was pre-mined, right? Now, is BitMEX connected to some of these sort of early adopter, sort of accredited investors, and are those the coins that are being traded here, or what is it that we're trading here?
That's a great question. That's a great question. These I don't know. I can tell you that these contracts, so the futures contracts are December. They expire in December, at which point the coin will have been launched, and so there's that. But you're absolutely right. Who's the counterparty to these futures contracts?
Yeah, so I think we can assume that it's accredited investors, and so does this account? Does this chart count for like one Zcash each?
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. Yeah, that one contract is equal to one Zcash.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a really interesting chart. I mean, I wonder if this is already the bubble, like if we've already missed it, or like do you know if you need to be KYC verified to be able to trade these contracts?
No, actually you don't. In fact, it's quite the opposite. That BitMEX will not allow people from the U.S. to open an account. So this is, I definitely agree. It's really, so we're talking about 10-time price increase, but these aren't people from the United States generally that are trading this. So it's a good point. I mean, what happens next Friday when the coin goes live and the price is already up 10 times? These are some pretty rich valuations, but it's going to be really, really exciting to watch that. What do you think, Henry?
I'm still trying to work these futures contracts out. So it expires in December, and at that point, if I'm holding a futures contract, I need to give Zcash at that price to someone in December. Is that what this means?
If it is, how I read it is, it just depends on if you're long or short. If you're long, then I don't know that these actually come if they expire and you actually have to, if you get Zcoin from it, or if you have to give up Zcoin. I'm not, I really don't know. I just got involved with BitMEX today. So that's something I can check on, but that's true. That's generally how these things work. That if people, like they trade futures for wheat or cocoa or coffee, in theory, if you hold on to these contracts, you do get the commodity at the end of the term. But I just don't know how these things will work. They're so new. But it's a great question.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I just confirmed that there's going to be 21 million Zcash coins. So based on this price, I guess I'm trying to figure out what the market cap would be if it was trading right now.
So basically the last trade was 170,550 Satoshi, or 0.01
in the Bitcoin.
I'm sorry.
How many Satoshi in a Bitcoin?
There is, so I believe it's 7 digits. So what, a million?
10 million.
10 million?
Oh no, 7 digits.
Satoshis.
So get out the kick. I was good. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking on about this is such a rich valuation.
Market cap is going to be.
Yeah. And
no question is going to be in the top 5, maybe top 7 cryptocurrencies market cap as soon as it launches.
I mean, just for mental maths, that puts that about 3 million Bitcoin, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. If it continues at that valuation, and there's 21 million times that valuation.
So, how much?
They're not all launching at once, though, right? It's going to be continually mined for some time.
Right.
Okay, so 0.1705 BTC is 107 US dollars times 21 million, right? 107 times 21. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 2 billion. That's going to be bigger than Ethereum. That's $2,247,000 market cap right now, based on that futures.
Are we assuming that they have to all be in circulation for that to take effect? How many will be in circulation on the day of launch?
Well, that's a question that would apply to every other sort of coin market cap sort of number, okay. But
right.
That's good. That's good. A lot of them are going to be mined, right? So there's already a small percentage that's in circulation, or apparently according to this contracts, but then they're actually going to be transferable on the Zcash blockchain on October the 28th, and then the mining will begin, and then generation of new coins will start sort of happening. So this is against the total circulation, which is 21 million, and that would be $2.2 billion. So it would be number 2, the second biggest cryptocurrency right now.
Wow.
It would beat Ethereum.
Yeah, that's pretty.
does it work in a
Pretty
similar
crazy,
way
right?
to Bitcoin in rewarding miners for processing transactions and so on?
That's right. It's proof of work, and it's memory hard. I think that the technical word is memory hard mining. So it's basically RAM based mining.
Okay.
Right.
Tension, right? And so, we'll see if it holds against ASICs. Doesn't Genesis Mining do what do they do? GPU mining or sort of ASICs as well?
I don't know how they're doing it, but there was this one thing that I wanted to bring up that it's this thing here called the folks from Zcash are launching an open source challenge. They're sponsoring a prize fund of $30,000 for the person that can create a GPU miner for Zcash, because I guess the theory is they want normal people to be able to mine this stuff. So yeah, just totally way out of my league about the technology about that, but that's what they're going with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, big miners are getting in. This is a huge coin. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is that obviously I don't know if we can get in. I don't know what we can expect of the price, right? Because once it hits Poloniex, once it hits Bittrex, once it hits the big exchanges, then I think a lot of people are going to want to get in. But then I wonder how many of the initial investors are going to want to get out, and the miners are going to want to start getting out, or at least that's where the real flow of money starts going in. So what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on what the price might do in the first sort of few weeks, or particularly the first week of trading, Aaron?
Yeah, well, here's what I would have thought. I would have, hey, we got Sasha here.
Yay, what's up, Sasha?
All right, Sasha.
So I was thinking that, just out of the blue, I would have guessed that the trading would have gotten started about where it did start, about 25,000 Satoshi. That seems to be reasonable, and it's kind of where the other coins have been debuting lately. But now that we're at valuations of like 25,000, pardon me, 250,000, right now we're about 170,000. But that's pretty rich, and I don't know that I would feel comfortable buying at that price the actual coins. What we could be seeing here is people bidding up the futures, because it's relative. There's not a lot of trading on it. I think there's like the open interest is about 500 contracts, which is that's nothing. So you could potentially bid this up, and then as soon as the coin goes live, short the futures, and there could be some pretty heavy selling. So I hope it comes down a bit, because I don't know if I'd want to get in at these prices.
So is this contract is people's prediction of what the price will be in December, not what the price is going to be next week?
No, this thing is very volatile, and it's just like a prediction. Generally, if you look at the futures contracts of like the S&P 500 or any kind of commodity, it definitely trends with the spot price of whatever commodity you're talking about. So there is a relative relationship. If one goes up, usually you have, I'm just pulling these numbers out of the air. If gold is trading at 1,200, the spot price is usually like $3 or $4 above that. But they move in conjunction with each other. As the spot price goes up or the futures go up, they both kind of follow along. But you do see a lot of that, a lot of manipulation in like the S&P mini contracts. Those are the Standard & Poor's index, where futures are trading. What you see is like in the midnight hours when nobody's up and nobody's trading, you see kind of large institutional people can push the price around, so that when the open spot market opens, if you just start selling like at 6 in the morning before everything opens, or 5:50, the spot price of whatever asset that is will open lower like that. So it's definitely possible to move the markets via the futures.
If I was, in answer to your earlier question, Juan, if I was one of the original investors, rather than selling immediately on open, this has got such big publicity investors, I imagine I would try and pump it mainstream and get a lot of attention, a lot of press, spike it even higher before selling.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It's going to get a lot of press.
And
it already has plenty of.
I mean, not only these companies, but people like Roger Ver with his network have been in this for a while, haven't they? So I would expect that.
Well, Roger Ver is interesting because he's actually apparently he's a early investor in Zcoin, which is that other competitor I was telling you guys about earlier. Yeah, and he's been promoting them on Twitter and stuff because they donated to the Russ Ulbricht, sort of free Russ Ulbricht fund, basically. So they donated like 25 grand. No, Zcoin. So Roger Ver is sort of a kind of supporter of Zcoin. Now I don't know if he's in Zcash as well. I actually would like to know who the early adopters or investors of Zcash are, but yeah, I think we can expect media attention as soon as it launches. I mean, it's going to be on every cryptocurrency news, I guarantee. And then it's probably going to hit Motherboard and I don't know if it'll hit Vice, but all the sort of tech ones, TechCrunch will definitely cover it. I mean, this is huge news because the cryptographers are so sort of kind of high level.
Yes. It's got hype enough that I went to the first meeting of my university blockchain society earlier this week, and the lead tech guy had a T-shirt with Zcash on it.
Nice.
So he's not going to be the only one. There's going to be loads of people like him who've seen the words zero knowledge proof and have got very excited. That's why T-shirts, right?
That kind of speaks to a question I had, and then maybe we can transition to talking about the Bitcoin fork. But I had this question: how much of people that are going to be getting involved in this coin offering next week are really interested in the anonymity aspect of it versus kind of the hype that's going on? Because I suspect there's a little bit of people just riding the wave, like Henry's. It's pretty popular.
I imagine that more people are supportive of the idea of anonymity than need to use anonymity right now. Like the whole libertarian movement will love it because it's just fine. It's privacy, right? Whether you're trying to do something anonymous or not.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of sort of long-term speculation, or at least sort of belief in its value. But as far as use, I think it's going to be probably a year or two before we see any relevant use. Again, it might hit the dark markets in a few months, but
I mean, the other something, if for the last however many months we're moving out of China through Bitcoin, continue to something like Zcash as an alternative, if people are still moving cash out of China. Whenever I've logged on to like organizations, it's always been out of China.
Saying that there's a lot of money going out of China, moving out of China?
That's what I've observed over the last several months, and that's what I've heard is going on, in that because China has capital controls, cryptocurrencies are a way for people to circumvent that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that cryptocurrencies are good at. It's avoiding capital controls. Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm looking at a coin that had a similar kind of hype, which is Augur, right? I wouldn't say it's quite as big as Zcash, but it's comparative relative to the crypto space. Augur is this sort of decentralized prediction market that is about to launch on top of Ethereum, and that they did their ICO about a year ago, and a couple of sort of exchanges, at least one centralized exchange, and then a lot of sort of off the counter exchanges have been trading sort of these coins off the chain for about a year. And we actually do have a chart that goes back about a year based on one of these centralized exchanges called Gatecoin. And if you look at the price, it reaches a top of 0.038 Bitcoin, which is pretty high. That's at the beginning of this year in March. and then it settles again at around 0.0134 Bitcoin, and then it peaks again, not reaching an all-time high, but almost at 0.0295. And right before it starts becoming tradable on the blockchain. And as soon as it becomes tradable on the blockchain and it hits the major exchanges like Poloniex, all this, it falls all the way to $5 or 0.01 Bitcoin. So when I hit the exchanges, it was about $9. Before the exchanges, it got to a point of $17, and then right now it's trading about $5. So there seems to be a like, it seems like people trade on the news and then sell on the release, right? Or they trade on the anticipation, they buy on the anticipation and sell on the release.
That's exactly right. I got burned twice actually. Once on Augur because we were so hyped about it. By the time I got on Gatecoin and everything, I ended up paying like, I don't know, almost $10 for each one, thinking, oh, it's going to go up to 30 or 40 when it gets listed. No, it went down to 5. So I'm a bag holder. And then the same thing happened with Not, right? There was all this hype, and we're like, yeah, it's going to go to $14, bro. It's going to be awesome. And then, it blows up to 90 cents, and now it just kept going down. And now it's at fucking. I sold and made money, but I rebought back in, and then it kept going down to like 15 fucking cents. So the funny thing with it was that it went up, and literally nothing happened. The hype was nothing. It was just hype. So it actually, the price was higher before the actual release, and even before the white paper came out, the price went down. And when it came out, everyone was like, whatever, and it just fucking collapsed. So hype is everything, really. It doesn't even matter what anything says. Nothing matters. It's hype. Shit coins are all about hype. That's where the money's at. Either hype or a really, really good coin that's amazing that you hold for years because it's going to change the world. That's basically all it is.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear you got burned on that. I do think that Augur is a long-term coin to hold anyways. I'm holding half of what I had originally purchased, and I did sell as soon as I could because I saw as soon as the price hit, I started to see the tea leaves, right? Like the fact that it was 17 before it hit the markets, and then it was 9 after it hit the markets. Is like, okay, this shit's gonna plummet. But I think it's got potential long term, and I think Zcash is one of those other ones that have potential long term. But I think we're probably gonna see people start dumping it. The thing is, like, Zcash didn't have an ICO, an open ICO like Augur did. With Augur, anybody that had Ethereum could just buy, no questions asked. Zcash has accredited investors that need to do KYC compliance and everything to get Zcash. So I don't know if these people are the kind of people that would dump Zcash on the market. Granted, this contracts exchange might actually pay out liquid Zcash as soon as like do they get to cash out in December, or can they cash out before like on the 29th of October or something?
Hey Juan, as you were talking about that kind of reminded me just with the kind of valuations we're talking about and hype and all that. I'm just using the crypto calculator, and tell me if I'm viewing this correctly. It's trading, these futures are trading at like 170,550 Satoshi. That translates to a price of $108 per share, per coin. That's crazy. That's
insane.
Wait, for what?
That's where I got the number. So Zcash futures are trading right now at $107, and at 21 million total Zcash coins. That puts it at number 2 by cryptocurrency market cap at $2.2 billion of market cap. It would make it the second largest cryptocurrency right now based on the futures.
Well, I'm not a futures expert, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so you missed the beginning of our chat where I sort of talked about how this is basically a libertarian dream as far as anonymity cryptocurrencies go, and heavily institutionally backed. Like, some of the people that are funding this thing are, again, I'll just sort of mention some names. So Amazon.com is one of the sponsors, Broadcom Foundation, Tel Aviv University, Center for Science Information, DARPA, Checkpoint Institute. So like these organizations dump a lot of money on sort of research projects, and this is one of them. And it's got like top of the line cryptographers, a lot of from Hopkins University, etc. So this is a massive, like, this is the cream of the crop as far as cryptographers and technologies. At least that is the hype, right? And that's why. And this thing has been like the tech has been sort of under academic development for like 3-4 years. So that's why this is a big deal. But the fact that the coin, the market cap is 2.2 billion right now based on these futures is just unreal. And I think that Aaron is right that we might see it go up a little bit more. Expect a significant sell-off, assuming that these futures can be bought, can be sort of sold off as soon as it hits the market. Like if on the 28th of October this thing hits the market, can people start selling their profits from the futures at that point, or are they locked until the end of December for the contracts? Do you know that, Aaron?
Yeah, no, you can. They're freely tradable, so they're not. The European style, I believe, is locked into an expiration date, but these are freely tradable. So to give you guys,
so if we buy some right now, we can cash out on the 28th.
Yeah, exactly. To give you guys another perspective on the price, so when these futures opened up, they started trading at about $16. We'll call it $16 per coin or per contract. They are now trading at $107 per contract, and that's about a month that they've been trading. So
one might argue that as we get closer to launch date, the hype will only grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might think.
Yeah, we're 1 week away, so we're it's ramping up.
Well, we
8
should
days away from launch.
Buy futures at this point, at this price.
Yeah, I may sell futures at this price. That
Yeah.
You could do that. You could do that. Or honestly, if I was going to trade this, what I would do is wait till the day of, and I almost certainly whatever price it's trading at, it's going to go up a little higher because people are just going to be eating the stuff up.
Yeah.
And once you see, hopefully there'll be like a blow off top that you see a lot of these situations, and that would be a great place to short.
What's a blow off top? What does that look like in the chart?
Yeah, let me see if I can show. Well, can you see the screen?
Yes.
So you see this candle right here, something like that. I mean, this is totally exaggerated, and it's going in the wrong direction. But something that's just completely like parabolic, and it's going straight up. It's just pointing straight up. So it's just trading crazy, and really what it is, it's a lot of people that are trying to get into it, and maybe some people that are short the market covering their shorts. So that it's dangerous. It's to get to do these, especially that are leveraged. A lot of trades that are leveraged. So, but when you see that, you saw it in. You saw it in. Let me see if I can pull up a chart of that Monero. I can remember Monero did that. Let me pull that up. I'll show you a blow off top.
Juan, if you mute your mic when you're not talking, and then because every time you make noise, it shows us your face and we can't see the chart.
Me?
Oh, okay.
No, I'm talking to Juan.
No.
Because if you're not talking, just have it muted, and then it's awesome.
Thanks. Aaron, you can right click. There's a little arrow on the windows at the bottom on Google Hangouts. You can click one of those little arrows on it and then set it as the sort of main page, so that doesn't happen.
Okay.
I'll mute myself anyways.
So you can let me just show you real quick here. This is a blow off top. This area right here. So, of course, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this candle right here, we're cruising along, and this is pretty.
Oh yeah. This
candle right here is really, really aggressive. Whoops, sorry about that. And then it kind of traded down. We went up here, and at this point, people with the psychology of this is that people are just going nuts. Wanting to get in, and they think, oh my God, I'm missing out. There's kind of this greed aspect, and then you see one of these that just, I mean, where do you expect it to go from here? This is just pure greed happening here. And if you can, of course, it's easy to talk about it in hindsight, but during the moment, everyone's totally crazy with greed. If you sell that, chances are, I mean, you could have ridden this all the way down. And I can remember is this Poloniex? I show you guys this one other thing. I was tracking the RSI And you can see here that that's on the bottom here. It was pretty steady. What was it? Once we broke down, though, so there was an upward trend line. And once we broke down, I can remember I was on one of the chat forums and I said, you know, this one's done, it's toast, because it was so, everyone was just so into this coin. There was just madness. And once we broke through the RSI, it still hasn't stopped going down. So we might see that in a compressed time period with this new coin, because think about it again, $15 to $107. I mean, where are you going to go from there? That's pretty rich valuation. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean the reality of the market right now, like if we look at Monero's sort of current trading volume, Monero right now is one of the top 7 cryptocurrencies, and it's even trading higher than, or at least market cap wise, it's higher than Dash. The volume is twice that much as Dash, but I have a look at some of these dark markets, and I have just a couple of contacts, and what I'm told is that the majority of people are still using Bitcoin, like Monero, and what I've heard from other people talking about it is like Alphabay may have accepted Monero, but Monero is not really dominating the market. It's still Bitcoin, and so and in part because there's sort of like Monero didn't have a client, sort of a client side graphic user interface wallet, and so you know if you're going to be the biggest dark market, you're going to be serving the majority of people who can just their brains explode at the sight of a terminal, right? So you need a graphical user interface, and so I don't know that Monero. I mean, obviously Monero crazy, right? I mean, it was an incredible pump, an incredible bubble, and that's personally why I didn't have the courage to get into it, because it was just so unbelievable how it was going up. But so I don't think that we'll see legitimate use of any anonymous coin until one of these dark markets sort of starts really picking up volume in anonymous coin, or until one of these sort of major sort of blockchain analytics companies hit Bitcoin really hard and start sort of enforcing something. That's when there's going to be a flood. I remember when the big Bitfinex hack happened, a lot of people started going towards Bitsquare.io, which is a decentralized sort of local Bitcoins type, and like we got attention that is sort of they've never gotten, I think, this kind of attention to my knowledge, and they got a lot of volume, and then that sort of teetered off over time. But this kind of market events really trigger people to look for alternatives, and I don't really see where Zcash is going to hit. But then again, maybe I'm missing sort of. I'm sure there's information that the insiders have about potential partnerships and stuff. I mean, when you're this institutionally connected, I wouldn't be surprised if sort of big cryptocurrency, big sort of stock market companies like Nasdaq are looking at it, right? And big banks and stuff, right? But then again, it's tricky, right? Because KYC compliance and all that. So I don't know. I don't think I've seen yet exactly what use case would justify the kind of prices that we're sort of looking at right now, which is $100 a piece at a 2 billion market cap. Like, I think based on our conversation right now, I think we can expect it to sort of think bottoms and going, not gonna go up. I don't know. I'm not very. I think we're sort of seeing the tops right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, and maybe we should we can talk about this in the chat room about maybe potential trades on that, how to take advantage of the euphoria.
Sure.
Okay, do you want to switch over to Bitcoin?
Let's get into it.
How do you think this will affect Zcoin rather than Zcash?
Good point.
Right. So my theory, my thinking here, and I think that we can see it. Aaron, could you pull up a chart of Zcoin? I think that we can see. I think that the pattern that some people argue, and it's somewhat visible, is that if your blockchain is genetically related per se to the one that's pumping hard, yours is going to pump too, right? Like people, like there is a reason why Litecoin is still one of the top 10 sort of cryptocurrencies, even though why? No, there's no clear answers other than that China really likes it. It's because it's related to, it was the first clone. In fact, it was one of the earlier ones, right? Well, Zcoin is one of those, right? It's basically, it actually came out earlier than Zcash, even though Zcash is by the original team. And if you look at that price bubble, the price chart, it peaked the past few days. Like this thing is no more than like 3 weeks old, and it already peaked and it already fell, and now it's sort of testing the bottom right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this peak is because of Zcash getting ready. Well, and obviously because Bittrex accepted it, and so people got in and people got out, right? I think that once Zcash launches, there's a possibility that we're gonna see Zcoin's price move up, and then the same goes for Komodo. Komodo is gonna be launching on I believe it's November the 20th or December the 20th. One of those two, and I'll definitely have a lot of these data and links on the report that will be launching on steemit.com in the next few days. But Komodo is another one of those coins that I expect to see movement. And Komodo is another coin that assuming that they do launch a copy of Zcash, which I really don't have any doubts that they will, it's another coin that I think will be interesting in a long-term perspective. And I already sort of put some money into that and into Zcoin. But I think I don't know about Zcoin's long-term future, but I think it'll probably stick around for a while, and it'll probably harness a community of sort of, it's kind of like the Ethereum Classic to the Ethereum Core.
Yeah, that's a great segue into via BTC.
All right.
So this all kind of started with something you posted in the chat forum, and so basically what we've got is that everyone kind of knows that we've got this whole notion of segregated witness that's being worked on as a response to the problem of actually Bitcoin being so successful, that so many people are using it and there's so many transactions and so much traffic that when they're bumping up against the 2 megabyte block size limit that's hard coded into that. So that's kind of the setup, that there is kind of this bumping up against the extreme of the network. And this is...
Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Aaron, can you show us a chart of Bitcoin versus US dollars? Will you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So here is that. And I've got you can see my upward trend line. And I'm kind of going to talk about that too, about why I think Bitcoin is a really, really dangerous spot right now. So all of this is happening in the background. This is kind of like inside baseball. The users of Bitcoin, I don't know how much they're tuned into it, probably a little bit, but I think they're going to be tuned in a lot more. Because what you have is, and maybe you can help me with a little bit of the setup of that, you have a couple of different camps about what people believe Bitcoin should be. And so you have Bitcoin Unlimited, that is a protocol that says the limits should be flexible, that they should be decided by the miners. And there's some arguments for that. Versus, is it Bitcoin Core?
Bitcoin Core, yeah.
Core that is kind of advocating for the
well, let me sort of...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so segregated witness, yeah, so there's been obviously the big block size debate that everybody sort of is at least familiar with the terms, right? Mm-hmm. And the big question is, how do you scale Bitcoin? Because at the amount of transaction volume that companies like Visa or MasterCard deal with, the blockchain under the current setup, first of all, would grow to hundreds of gigabytes, maybe thousands of terabytes of space within a few years if it was doing, maybe even less if it was doing that kind of volume. And then the second problem is that a hard cap that the Bitcoin block size has, the blockchain has, which is 1 megabyte of information per block. So every 10 minutes, 1 megabyte is the max amount of data you can put into it. And that only allows for about 7 transactions per second rather than hundreds of thousands per second, right? Which is what I think, I believe what Visa is doing, right?
Right.
So SegWit is a way to sort of remove that limit with, I believe, I don't know if it's a soft fork or a hard fork, but basically the point was that if 95% of the miners thought that SegWit and Bitcoin Core's version is the best way to go, then this thing would trigger, and there would be sort of a 95% consensus sort of move towards the new version of Bitcoin. And that was going along more or less as planned. There's been plenty of hiccups and delays and controversy around it. And but up till now, there hadn't been any contender that was really strong. Bitcoin Classic sort of had a bit of a spike about 8 months ago, but then it sort of died down, and it's been sort of less than 5% of the market for at least the last little while. But I think for the most part, it's never really picked up enough. But Bitcoin Unlimited recently had a really big move. And Bitcoin Classic was basically just remove the cap and let it be completely free or open, right? Mm-hmm. Bitcoin Unlimited, what it says is that people can sort of agree that there's sort of, I guess, more complexity to it, but basically there's a flexible size to the cap. And sort of like the difficulty of Bitcoin mining is kind of adjusted based on some sort of algorithms. The cap would sort of be, it's a little more flexible. I'm not sure I understand it completely, but basically Unlimited would let people mine blocks that are 20 megabytes. And if other people accept it, if enough of other miners accept it, then it gets mined, then you're in. And if you mine a block that's, a gigabyte, well, you just lost mining revenue, right? And so there's some flexibility there, but my thinking is that neither of the solutions are particularly good because, and this comes into the criticism of Bitcoin Core. My thinking is that, first of all, Bitcoin Core SegWit, what it does is it allows for smaller transactions. It solves the malleability problem, which is sort of a technical thing, and then it allows for this thing called the Lightning Network, which what basically is going to do is going to turn Bitcoin into a settlement layer, and then it's going to let other sort of kind of associations of people trade between them, right? So let's say Starbucks would open up one Lightning Network gateway, and then another one with a variety of exchanges, and then you go and you trade through their gateway, and then the money goes through that channel, and it finally settles on Bitcoin as one transaction rather than 100 or 1,000, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the whole sort of vision that Bitcoin Core has. And it's a vision that's sort of used in video game scalability, right? Because video games, are basically virtual reality economies that are, if you, at the peak of popularity, will have millions of people using them. There's no way that one set of servers or even one set of pieces of software will be great for all the things that happen in a video game. So what happens is you get a lot of companies, smaller sort of software packages and software services dealing with specific pieces of the whole economy of a video game. And so they're applying this model to the blockchain, but concerns about that you're turning Bitcoin into a settlement network, and then you're creating a lot of smaller pieces that are sort of not necessarily, it brings into question whether Bitcoin would be money at that point or not, right? And so that's my problem with it is I don't like the idea of Bitcoin becoming a settlement layer, and I think that it doesn't really solve the fundamental problem, which is, that there's no incentive to host a full node. Like if people got paid to host a full node, like if part of the block size reward of the block reward was allocated to full node hosts, then sort of like Dash does it. They do some sort of collateral situation where they put in 1,000 Dash, and now they become a master node, and they get paid a little bit. Okay, now there's a financial incentive to have a 500 gigabyte SD drive, which is about maybe $150 on your server, and have high bandwidth. And suddenly it doesn't matter how big the size is, because you have an incentive to have good servers, right? The idea that everybody's gonna host a full Bitcoin blockchain, which is about something like 80 gigabytes right now, is ludicrous. I mean, it's mostly going to be around sort of service providers, idealists, and if you provide an incentive, then it's going to sort of be business people or sort of people that want to make money out of it. So in my view, neither of them sort of solve the problem. But then again, that's not sort of right now. It's Unlimited simply wants to sort of allow for some market dynamic for the block size.
So here's what comes up from all that. So what you did a really good job of explaining it. These are complex issues, and I think I've read both sides, and I've come more to kind of appreciate what Via BTC and the Unlimited folks are saying. But regardless of what I think, regardless of what anybody thinks, the fact is that you have to have 95% agreement to make this this segregated witness, which is a soft fork, valid. And right now,
okay, so sorry, so just, yeah, so right now what happened was that Via BTC, this mystery mining company that just it seems to have appeared out of nowhere in the last 2 months. It has apparently strong backing from a couple of Chinese mining organizations. Suddenly now has 10% of the mining hash rate of Bitcoin, 9.5%, and they're pro Bitcoin Unlimited. And so now they basically blocked the Bitcoin Core fork because they needed 95% of the mining consensus. And so Via BTC is sort of partnered up, or at least sort of, apparently Roger Ver held a sort of Bitcoin Uncensored conference at the same time that Scaling Bitcoin, I think 2.0 was happening, like the second conference, because they censored Bitcoin Unlimited or something like that. That's at least the Bitcoin Unlimited side of it. Well, and so right now there's a contention in the future of Bitcoin.
So the practical matter and why people should care is that this one pool is basically able to block the implementation of what the savior of this whole. Everybody's kind of been putting all their eggs in one basket, which is segregated witness in the Lightning Network. Well, these guys via BTC are saying, nope, that's not going to happen. We're going to use our hash power to go a different way. And so what does that mean? And I think in a practical term, not getting into the politics of it, even where you believe this should go, so we're stuck now. We're basically, and people are starting to call it a war that's going to be upon us between these two different camps. And what's that going to do? Well, let's take a look at the price. So you can see here on the chart, we're in a really, really sticky situation. We've been up in a really nice trend here, but we are sitting right on the ledge of breaking that long-term uptrend. And you can see this is what I'm particularly concerned about, is this right here, this area. This is the RSI. This is the way that I was able to kind of see the Monero crash coming, is the RSI broke. And you can see we're just barely hanging on. So thinking about the fundamental aspects of Bitcoin, what's going to propel us to new levels if we're bumping up against this problem of scaling? And here's how I see it playing out. This is how I'm positioning myself, is that I don't actually think nobody's going to give an inch on this debate until what happens, the price drops dramatically. Then people are going to wake up, and then people are going to be they're going to be incentivized to make a decision, because at that point the miners are really getting hurt, and people are going to be, there's going to be a tremendous pressure on somebody to concede or to be, you know, a little bit more flexible. But I don't actually see that happening until we get a really big price drop. So I would just that's kind of what I see coming. I've moved a lot of I've sold a lot of my Bitcoin, and I'm just looking for alternative places to have that land. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we can expect some volatility in Bitcoin coming up. I mean, there's some scenarios that can happen, right? One of them is that the majority of Bitcoin sort of miners are like, you know what, let's just go with Bitcoin Unlimited. But there's a kind of a problem there, is that for the past year or so, people in the first Bitcoin scaling conference, there was a sort of big commitment that people made that said, okay, like a bunch of sort of big players signed the contract, or at least a letter, really signed a letter saying, we are going to go with SegWit. We're going to give SegWit a shot, or at least we're not going to. There's some sort of commitment like that. The thing is, Via BTC wasn't in the game back then, and that's why Via BTC can say, no, you know what, I'm going to go with Bitcoin Unlimited and not support the core version. And so there's a resistance there from Bitcoin Core supporters. They've already been investing in the future of SegWit and Bitcoin Core, and Via BTC and the Bitcoin Unlimited crowd And particularly, the thing is, Roger Ver, like one of the reasons why this matters is because Roger Ver, who owns Bitcoin.com, one of the bigger sort of news sites, is in support and alliance with via BTC, and so he has the influence and the he has the capacity to sort of influence the market to some degree. But so there's definitely a contention here. I'm not really sure what is going to happen. I don't know. I think via BTC, what they've said is that they're going to they're not going to compromise on Bitcoin Unlimited, but they might be willing to talk if if things get really ugly, basically, right? So perhaps you're right. Like, I can see your scenario where the price falls, and I can see based on that chart what you're saying that it probably will. So, like, if it breaks, it's gonna fall. I think that
I'm kind of looking that as, and I'm along, I love Bitcoin and I want to see it succeed. I think this has to happen though to get people off their butts and compromise.
Can you just explain just for a moment? Very interesting, by the way. Why you think, based on where that circle is right now, it's going to, like, is RBTC, is that just volume? I'm confused.
No. So what the circle, the line is indicating is, you can see this long term since August. This is the relative strength index, RSI indicator, and
RSI.
You can see it's been cruising along up nicely in a very kind of technical manner, that it's in an uptrend. Right now where the price and the price is corresponded as well, and about the same angle. What I'm saying is that we're at a really, really critical time, like right today, in the last couple of days, that even $5, if we were to trade down just even $5, which is nothing in Bitcoin land, this trend breaks. And at that point, you've got the technicals working against you in terms of price. And my scenario is that I see this as a precursor to movement happening in this other debate about the blockchains. The other thing that we didn't talk about, Juan and Sasha, is that what could happen with this if segregated witness continues to be blocked is that there would be a hard fork that kind of like that happened with Ethereum, and there would be two Bitcoins, and that would get ugly really quick. Because both coins would suffer, and you could see, I could easily see a couple of $100 easily getting shaved off in a couple of days. I actually think that's what's going to happen, and then at that point, people will decide to play nice because everybody's in pain. But that's unfortunately how these things sometimes play out.
On that note, when Ethereum split, the two coins were together worth more than before.
No. It basically split the value and the hash rate 80-20. And then obviously,
in terms of price, did the ETC that you held plus the ETH that you held were worth more than the original ETH? Was that
not to my knowledge? No, I think if you look at the price charts, and I was following that pretty closely, the price of Ethereum actually fell quite a bit. It was it found the bottom after the DAO hack at about 14, and then it was sort of, well, it fell to like 11, and then it went up to 14, and it was there. And then when Ethereum Classic started to like hit Poloniex, it fell to like 12, and then Bitcoin Classic went up to like $1, or like went up to $3 or $3.50 or something at its height, and then it's sort of it's falling to 1, and then Ethereum's at around $12.
Okay.
So it basically literally split the community, the currency, and the blockchain into two, and it created a lot of turmoil and uncertainty, right? Ethereum to this day has not really. It's still sort of like the movements that we used to see in Ethereum were of 2x, 3x, 4x, every 6 months or something, right? And then suddenly, since the DAO hack, it's been pretty much stuck between 11 and 14. And
I
don't really see.
It's been pretty. Yeah, I think it got up plus over $20, and it got hacked pretty good, and then I think right around here, and it's never really recovered. It's not really.
Yeah.
So I think I think that's actually the path of least resistance for Bitcoin right now, just precisely because BTC is digging in their heels, and I'm not blaming them. I think they've got a totally valid point, but just the mechanics of it is they can block segregated witness, which is what everybody's hope has been on in the Lightning network. And I'll just show you that tweet that this is via BTC on Twitter. Where is it? Real close. Okay, so somebody point blank asked via BTC, is there anything Core could do to make you support SegWit? Answer to the question, no. So I mean that's pretty clear that they're not going to.
This is one of the things that pisses me off about via BTC. I don't understand. To my knowledge, they haven't explained why SegWit cannot also work with Bitcoin Unlimited. Like, why can't Bitcoin Unlimited also support SegWit? Like, SegWit, it builds the infrastructure for. It also solves the malleability problem. The malleability problem basically means that if you create a transaction right now, somebody can, like, the transaction. There's something called the transaction ID. That transaction ID can be forged by other people, and so I can't have certainty about the name or the unique identity of a transaction until it's been mined by a few blocks, and that messes with a lot of potential technologies that can be built on top of Bitcoin. SegWit solves that problem, but then why couldn't they just implement, if via BTC and Bitcoin Unlimited support SegWit, but maintain their defense for big blocks or for sort of variable block size?
Yeah,
I think there's room for compromise, and I think that the pressure is going to be on via BTC to do so, because I think you're right that the majority of at least the miners are already kind of comfortable with SegWit, and if via BTC doesn't give, Roger very guaranteed is going to make some noise, and he's going to be sort of talking about why Bitcoin Unlimited is awesome, and fork. And if there's a fork, it's definitely, I think we can definitely see a fall in price in Bitcoin. I've gotten out of Bitcoin as well to some degree. I've probably gotten out maybe 50% of the Bitcoin that I had. I'm getting into Dash. Maybe let's talk about some alternatives.
Sure.
At least to sort of weather the storm as far as sort of hedging against Bitcoin right now. I think Dash is one of them. Litecoin is definitely being talked about. But what do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, and I think it really depends on what you're moving from Bitcoin. If you don't have a ton of Bitcoins, like 5 or 10 or whatever, yeah, any of these work. I love Dash. I think I love Dash, the way their governance structure is, how they have kind of a budget that's built into the way that the software is written, so that, for development. I just love that idea. Gets people paid, and there's a lot of incentive to create good community. The problem with Dash for somebody moving a lot of Bitcoin over is, and this may have changed in the last couple of days, but I am troubled that the vast majority of volume Dash BTC is happening in one exchange, which is Poloniex. And that I mean, there's just all kinds of problems with there if you're talking about big, if you're moving over big dollars. But for smaller dollar amounts, Bitcoin amounts, Dash is great. I definitely like Litecoin, because they have the volume, they have the market cap, and it's not all concentrated in one exchange. And then of course you have the Chinese folks that are really into it. For me, what I was looking for was not necessarily what's going to gain so much, it's what's not going to go down so much, or what's not going to lose value. And that was important to me. But I love Dash. I heard Ripple being mentioned. The problem with Ripple, let me pull up a chart of Ripple. Ripple, if you go to CoinMarketCap, it's up there. I think it's one of the top 5 in terms of market cap. So that's nice. But here, look at the chart here. This is a Head and Shoulders top, and no way I would go into this for remember, what we're trying to do is replace Bitcoin as a reserve currency. So this one it's just too volatile. This Ripple. I like the fundamentals. I like all the names involved in it. It's got a big market cap. It's got good volume, but this chart is just way too volatile, and it's most likely going to go down. So that kind of really just leaves you with Litecoin and Dash, or of course now Ethereum would be the perfect alternative to Bitcoin, except all the drama that's going on. You know, the DDoS attacks. You've got another hard fork coming up. So it's kind of more drama. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that Litecoin is starting to sound actually quite good, because you're right. I mean, obviously, assuming that there's no big sort of like if Poloniex doesn't get hacked in the next 4 months, which would be great, then Dash will probably be okay, and thus it will probably be a safe sort of place to put your money as far as price goes in the midterm or the short term. But Litecoin does have volume in a lot, basically almost every cryptocurrency exchange. Like even Coinbase supports Litecoin now, I believe, right? And so you're right that it's probably the better bet for just stability and weathering the storm, and that's making me want to put some money into Litecoin right now because of that. I don't really know. I don't really see any other alternative.
Guys, I think
might we expect any change in Dash when
I've got
Zcash
a
launches?
better solution. I think Einsteinium is where the new reserve currency is at.
I thought you were going to say Potcoin.
I was literally trying to think of like what's the silliest one I could come up with. And Einsteinium.
Did you see this one coin on CoinMarketCap that just went up like 9,000%? It's called, but it's just fake volume. Like it's got like $300 worth of volume, but the market cap went up to like top 3. It's gone now. It's probably fallen already.
Every day you see these coins go up that are just ridiculous, and I'm starting to think like a good investment strategy literally would be to put in, whatever, a little money into every single one that exists, and then as soon as they blow up, you just sell them, and that's it. That would be your strategy.
I think somebody did that. Who is it? You guys know Crypto Trey?
No, that sounds familiar.
He tried to suck my dick once at a party.
Yeah, he did something like that.
I'm just kidding. I don't even know who that is.
You as well? Damn. All right.
Yeah. That would be interesting. So we could, be a fun little project.
Yeah, put $2 into everything. Yeah. No, I don't know, $50 or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this cast is getting long in tooth. What do you think about wrapping up?
Well, I think we've talked about a lot, and I think we have some decent solutions. Is there anything else that anybody has in mind?
I have one question. What about
show any move when Zcash launches next week?
What was the question?
Do we think Dash will show any change when Zcash launches?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question that I was also wondering. What effect is Zcash going to have on other anonymous coins? The way that Evan Duffield, the lead developer of Dash, is sort of thinking about Dash lately, and he just did an interview with their own sort of PR people, and one of the questions asked was, what do you think of people comparing Monero and Zcash to Dash? And his answer is simply that Dash's initial sort of feature was anonymity, and it still does that, and it does that all right. It does that fairly well. But Dash has become, or at least he thinks that it's become something a lot bigger than just anonymity. It's got the instant transactions, and it's aimed at becoming a decentralized PayPal, a cryptocurrency PayPal. And so is that he doesn't feel or think that Dash's only call to fame is anonymity anymore. And so he doesn't feel like it's that vulnerable to these new players in the market. I think Monero will probably perhaps sort of feel more of an impact than Dash, because Monero basically only does anonymity, and it's already falling. I mean, it's already sort of settling at, or at least sort of testing bottoms, right? So, I wonder if it has to have an effect. Like Zcash has to have an effect. I mean, people in this altcoin markets, people sell whatever they're holding, something that's going to hype to recover their bag holding sort of losses, right?
Yeah.
Or just for the sake of riding the FOMO. And so perhaps it'll push Monero down. It might push Dash down a little bit. I think the Dash community is a lot more sort of tight-knit, and the masternode incentives make it.
Or do you think the Dash developers say?
Well, I don't know that Dash right now does anything other than have a great potential and fast development. I think until Dash releases the evolution version, which is going to be a whole other level of cryptocurrency. Like, this thing is going to become a decentralized kind of money social network. It's not going to have sort of arbitrary content social network stuff, but it's going to be the next level of ease of using cryptocurrency, and I think it's going to blow out a lot of people away how much better it makes cryptocurrencies. But that's still, I believe, a few months away, and so right now it's also very speculative. But the thing that Dash has that pretty much no other major cryptocurrencies have is these masternode, so collateral incentives, which make it that the majority of people just stack up 1,000 Dash and just hold it long term in a cold wallet and have it rink in, 12% interest a year or something like that, and in Dash, paid in Dash. So it's a great hold long currency, and that's very strong sort of potential and a very strong community. But I don't know that right now it's even used that much for anonymity, frankly. I mean, we're seeing, if 80% of the volume, or I don't know how much, but if the majority of the volume is inside of Poloniex, and that means that it's not being used for anonymity. That means that InstaDex is not being used as a majority thing, and so it's basically another speculative cryptocurrency.
It's a great point, Juan. And I think we're looking at the chart right now of Dash BTC, and it's a relatively well-behaved coin. I've always said that, and I like it about that. And I think why that is exactly what you say, that these people that get involved with masternodes and they collect the interest from that, those 1,000 coins that are needed to get the node are taken off the market. So that kind of drains liquidity, and it acts as a stabilizer, because there's all that those coins that could be traded or sold, they're just not on the market anymore. So it kind of, at least it seems like it's stabilized the coin. But I totally agree with you. I like Dash on its own merits, aside from the anonymity aspect. I really like the governance of how they set aside some of the where it would all go to the miners, some of it goes to the community, and they can make decisions that way. And so I like that.
Yeah, it's got an excellent governance model. Go ahead.
Quick question. Whatever happened to dissent? I know I got some of that, and so did you.
I did too.
So I reached out to their developers and on Twitter and stuff, and I sort of asked them like how things are going or whatever. Basically just checked on them and asked them a couple questions, and they basically sent me the link to the white paper for my answers, and they weren't very active. As far as I know, there haven't been any scandals yet, and apparently they have their own blockchain and stuff. And so I mean, this is a speculative long-term social media investment. Dissent. I think I think that the next step with Dissent would be to sort of reach out to them and sort of try to figure out where they're at or what the development stage is, what's happening. But I haven't really heard anything beyond that.
Okay.
I got a bit of money on it.
Yeah, me too. So cool. All right.
Yeah. Can you just to the last thing we can do is, can you take a look at the price chart of Dash and sort of let us know what you think there? Maybe take a look at Litecoin as well.
Yeah, so we're looking at Dash, and there's no doubt that right now Dash is in a downtrend. And so if you look at this area right here, we had talked about Dash in the chat room, and I had put this arrow, this circle is still from when we were trading over here, and I predicted that there would be some support right here. Well, we blew right through that, and that was a little concerning to me, because this is the 50% retracement arc, and you can see this trades really, really well within these channels. And so we blew right through that. We've come up in the last couple of days. Support has turned into resistance. We pinged off that, and so we need to get above this area and close above this line to get back into even hopes of an uptrend. So right now we're still in a downtrend on Dash. I don't, from a long-term perspective, I think this is a really nice chance if anybody's thinking of getting into Dash. It's going to be on sale here pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But so that's what's going on there. And then Litecoin, Litecoin, BTC. Let me get to a different.
Holy fuck! Look at that! Look at that nosedive. What happened there?
Well,
Whoever had some like buy walls at 0.02 is
that could
just
be
dancing right now.
a bad data print.
Right.
That could just be bad data.
Or a hack. Could have been a bit of Phoenix hack.
The thing with Litecoin that I've been really studying Litecoin hardcore for like the last week, and so here, this price, you see this little blue dotted line. If you take, let's look at the week chart. It's easier to see, maybe even the month chart. You can see we're pretty much at the lower end of where Litecoin trades relative to Bitcoin. That's why this was the perfect alternative to Bitcoin for me, because I just don't want my investment to lose money. If it gains money, that's great, but I just don't want it to lose. And this is the coin for me. And it's not really volatile. The other thing that you have to, and see that we've got this little uptrend I drew here, and it's been right on a closing basis. It's been hugging this pretty good. So I think this is, to me, the no-brainer for if you're trying to get out of Bitcoin and need to move some funds.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you guys. If there's no more thoughts there, anybody else? Any last questions?
You want to try to do this again for the launch of Zcash?
Well, it's going to be on October the 28th.
Okay.
And we're going to we'll have a link below as soon as we write the report and all this sort of information that I'll be posting on Steemit and with some price charts and stuff. It's going to be real good. We're working on. So,
okay.
Well, thank you everybody for watching, and let us know what you think below, because obviously this is a very complex topic and we just danced around 5 different blockchains. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think of the format and what we can do better. This is sort of like a test launch of a sort of this cryptocurrency trading research group and media organization that we're sort of developing. And so let us know what you think below. And I need an exit mojo. I think Rock On is today's sort of mojo.
Okay. Love you guys. Peace out.
Good night.
Later, Sasha.
Bye.